Hello everyone, today in this video we will fight against the advanced character of our world around us as we always do on this channel. And today we will talk about unification of Japan, but presented nicely, and this is surprising. In 1984 the book was published. It's the biography of Mr. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the dictator and unifier of Japan, written by the Soviet-Russian historian of Azeri origin, Mr. Ahmed Iskenderov. What's surprising that this biography should be first entitled Toyotomi Hideyoshi and His Times because it gives us broad panorama of the 16th century Japan and all circumstances that led to the Japanese unification. Actually, the Japanese unification is a child of three fathers. However, it's true. I mean, Oda Nobunaga, the one who started, the mentor of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the Toyotomi Hideyoshi who physically did it, and Tokugawa Ieyasu who actually cemented it and formed the shogunate dominated by his family that ruled Japan until the half of 19th century when Japan opened its borders to the world. And Tokugawa shogunate was really, let's say, the follower of the strict isolationist rule only for Dutch people and few other nations later. The port on the Dejima island was open and the contact between Japanese population and foreigners was strictly limited. But okay, this is the different history. I mean, the biography of Toyotomi Hideyoshi by Mr. Ahmed Iskenderov, as I mentioned, is surprisingly good. Also because, despite the fact it was published in Soviet Union in 1980s, the quotations from the so-called classics, so Marx and Engels works, can be found only in the introductory text and the text that sum ups the book and put some concluding remarks. So surprisingly, author was not tormenting the reader with so-called classics. That it's a very big plus for this work. And also, author didn't attribute the great historical processes like unification of entire lands under one rule and unification of political unification of entire nation. Author didn't attribute it to so-called economical and sociological processes that everyone should succumb to, as Marxists approach to history always pushed through this interpretation and this theory. According to Mr. Ahmed Iskenderov, the great individuals actually move the wheels of history, like these three individuals I mentioned, so Mr. Oda Nobunaga, Mr. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Mr. Tokugawa Ieyasu. And what I really like in this book is very rational approach to the historical events, actually undermining the great meaning in quotation of the incident in San Felipe that drunken Spanish sailor revealed the modus operandi plan of action of Spain and Portugal towards colonized nation, that the missionaries come first, later agents, later traders, and later the country needs to succumb to the crown of Spain and Portugal. And according to many Western historians, this incident, this honest confession, honest in quotation, confession of the drunken Spanish sailor, just was a trigger that changed the approach of the unifier of Japan, dictator Toyotomi Hideyoshi, towards the Roman Catholics, and cruel persecution started, and Catholics had to go, the ones who survived, to go underground. Later we have Shimabara rebellion. In one of my previous movies entitled The Variable Fate of the Japanese Catholics, I'm dealing with this event, Shimabara rebellion. If someone is interested, one can go back. Mr. Ahmed Iskenderov has different explanation of the drastic change in the approach of the Japanese authorities towards the new religion that came to Japan and was quite successful in converting people. It's more than simple. The Portuguese were not so eager to share technical details about their long distance ships and navigation and techniques of navigation. That's why Mr. Hideyoshi, as a pragmatic and brutal politician, decided that Catholics are no longer needed in his country, and it happened what happened. So cruel persecution, and some of them, I mean the Catholics who survived, had to go really deeply underground to practice their strictly forbidden religion. Okay, it happens. And I only found one anachronism in the book of Mr. Ahmed Iskandarov, surprising anachronism that it can appear in such well-written book, that Holy See, so the state that was ruled by the Pope, Mr. Ahmed Iskandarov calls Vatican. Vatican was formed after the unification of Italy, and so in the second half of 19th century, actually 1870, 1871, and in the 16th century, in which the action of the book about Mr. Toyotomi Hideyoshi and his time takes place, Mr. Ahmed Iskandarov should write instead of Vatican Holy See. But as we see, even such mistakes and anachronisms happen to very good and very well educated historians. Such mistake really induced a smile on my face. One thing is also important, that Mr. Ahmed Iskandarov, so author of the book, clarifies the fact that he emphasized Mr. Toyotomi Hideyoshi because he despised Akigara family, who was holding those days the shogun title, never accepted shogun title himself. When he was in power, he was using title Kampaku, which means more or less, when we use Western nomenclature, a sort of chancellor. But after he officially retired from power, but as long as he was alive, he never resigned from power in practice, he was using a modest title Taiko, which can be translated as former Kompaku, or sort of a prince title, yeah. But former Kompaku, sort of a prince. And history remembered him under the title, in Japanese historiography, the modest title, Taiko. Taiko Hideyoshi, exactly. The history remembered him like this. Okay, so I really recommend this book to you, because it shows that despite huge pressure of censorship, huge pressure of ideology, of communistic ideology in Soviet academia, some of the books that were written in this country still deserve our attention, especially publications in Oriental studies, and still should be read, sometimes with caution, sometimes not, because authors like Mr. Ahmed Iskandarov were smart enough to dodge the formal necessity of quoting classics in their works they were writing. And their historical works are valuable. The same one can say about works by Mr. Gumilov or few other Russian historians that should be read just to have a fresh and different view on known facts, or just to learn new facts and new interpretations or new attitudes to old problems. All the best. I wish you all the best. I hope you will have a nice day. Bye.